Welcome back to another episode of Talk Your Abs Off. I'm your host, Abby Clapper, and if you grew up playing sports and struggle now with how your body has changed from being an athlete to where it is now, this episode is for you. I remember a specific time when I was working in corporate wellness. An employee came into the gym for an assessment. He sat down across from me and said, I played D1 collegiate level baseball. Baseball was my whole life. I was in the best shape. Now I've been working in an office for 6 months and I don't even recognize my body anymore. Now, I'm not here to tell you that you should be striving for your high school or college athlete body, but I am here to validate what you might be feeling. Maybe offer an explanation and talk through how to move through it in a healthy way. I also think that a lot of former athletes grieve more than just the physical changes. You might miss the structure, the identity, routine, team environment, or the feeling of being really good at something. And that's totally normal. But fitness in adulthood doesn't have to be punishment for no longer being an athlete. It can become something that supports your energy, confidence, and quality of life now. The transition from sports as your entire life to a sedentary corporate job is jarring. If you grew up active, playing sports in elementary school, and maybe even taking it to a college level, things change significantly once you stop playing. Multiple things change. You may have went from training 2 hours a day to now not moving at all or maybe getting in 30 minutes. You also ate to fuel your body for that sport. Based on how many calories your body needed to perform well at that sport, if you continued to eat the same amount of calories but not train as intensely, you may notice a change in your body weight. These are all normal things, but it doesn't make them feel any easier. And this also doesn't mean that you need to crash diet or overly restrict yourself now. Your body just has different needs than it did when you were training competitively. Looking at our lifestyles, it is somewhat unrealistic to expect to train the same way that we did in school. If you were a high school athlete, once you finished school, you probably trained for 2 to 3 hours after school, went home, ate dinner, did some homework, and went to bed. You didn't have any other responsibilities. Same goes for college. You probably even had less time in class and a structured amount of time to train for your sport, and then spent time with friends or worked on coursework. Maybe you had a job, but you still had plenty of time for training. Now, the majority of people are working minimum of 8 hours a day, not including a potential commute of, let's say, an average of 30 minutes each way. If you have a desk job, and we include the commute time, you are sitting for at least 9 hours with maybe a walk or two throughout the day, and then coming home to either sit and watch your children's sporting events or maybe sitting on the couch watching TV. It is no surprise that our bodies are responding to the change in stimulus, and the stimulus being less activity. Many people who were athletes still do continue to find time to train and may wonder why their bodies are still not behaving how they remembered. When someone is training for a sport, either in high school or college, the level of training is intense. You have a coach telling you what to do, a team that you are accountable to and who is also pushing you to do your best. And unless you're going to spend 2 to 3 hours in the gym running sprints, lifting how you did in your sport, running drills, of course, you are going to see a difference in your body. And that's not a bad thing. But we need to understand why our quote unquote glory days feel like they are behind us. Maybe you are heavily resonating with what I'm saying and thinking, I don't want my glory days to be behind me. I want to get back to how I was. Fair, that's valid. But we also need to be realistic. I absolutely agree that as we age, we shouldn't need to lessen the intensity of our training, especially if we want to age well. We do need to take into consideration where our bodies currently are. If you have taken time off of training due to work and life, that's okay. In fact, that's expected. Easing back into a training program that is similar to what you used to do will be way more enjoyable than trying to run sprints right out the gate and do box jumps and cleans and snatches. With any exercise program that I talk about, starting slow is always the best way to avoid injury and find what will work for you and your body. And there are a few ways that you can get back into a groove that feels good to your body. Many different gyms offer group classes or small group training that will offer HIIT, which is high intensity interval training, that will feel very similar to what you were doing as an athlete. There are also coaches who coach adults specifically for the sport that they used to play or plan to pick it back up. Personal trainers like myself are also really great resources to help you find programming that mimics what you used to do in a way that feels good for your body now. We also need to talk about finding more ways to move throughout the day if you find that you have a sedentary job. In college, many of us walked from class to class, getting in way more steps than we probably do now, on top of training for a sport. I talk about the importance of walkable communities in episode 15 if you want to hear more about how that can help benefit longevity. But realistically, we all do need to be incorporating more steps throughout the day. Some companies run step challenges, and if yours does, I encourage you to join. You'll find some similar competition and camaraderie that you had on your sports team if you participate in those. You can try using your lunch break to take a lap around the building, inside or outside. There are no excuses here based on the weather. Or if your building has a fitness center, taking a short 5-minute break to lift a few weights. If you are working from home, taking a walk before starting work so that it's out of the way, or getting some steps in at lunch or after work. Maybe keeping snacks and water bottles in the kitchen so that you have to walk to get them and force yourself to move when you want something. There is also the option of walking pads that you can buy for under your desk that allows you to walk while you work either on a call or while doing something passive. But I can already hear it. But Abby, none of those will work for me. My job is way too consuming. Heard. I've also heard it all before. You make time for what is important for you. And if continuing to be healthy and active post high school or college sport, you can find the time. Here's a great example. When I worked in corporate wellness, I would walk up to the floors where the employees were working and interrupt what they were working on. They got used to it. And I essentially forced them to take a stretch break or move their bodies for a few minutes. At first, people were hesitant. They didn't join. They sat at their desks and claimed that their work was too important. But once employees started to realize that they weren't holding beating hearts in their hands and could step away for 5 minutes, more and more employees joined in. They found that after the break, they were happier, their bodies felt better, and the work was still there for them to work on after. And the people that never joined just got to sit there and be grumpy. Also, the people who used to be athletes did enjoy these breaks because it reminded them that they could continue to be active even with a sedentary job. At the end of the day, you get to decide if training like an athlete is something you want. It is absolutely possible if you want to, and you can look at your schedule and structure in even an hour workout that will let you train in a way that feels good for your body. Your body changing after sports doesn't mean that you failed. It means that your life changed. And the goal now isn't necessarily to become your 17-year-old self again. The goal is to build a version of fitness that supports the life that you have now while still honoring the athlete that got you here. Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of Talk Your Abs Off, and I hope to see you on the next one. If you're enjoying this podcast and want to support it, you can now. Listening and sharing episodes already means so much, but if you'd like to support the show financially, you can head to the link in my show notes that says support the show. Contributions help cover production costs and allow me to keep creating thoughtful, accessible content for you. There is absolutely no pressure. This show will always be free to listen to. But if you've gotten value from these conversations and want to give back in that way, I'm incredibly grateful. You can find the link in the show notes.